welcome to the last and final session of our live and up close series. Hope our other sessions have been helpful and insightful. Today there is a twist in format. So as you can see, we have two guest speakers who will be coming in. One who is already with us is architect Aisha Fida. She is a computational designer and a fellow batchmate from CEP. She has done extensive research in the field and has recently published a paper in Cadrea. Currently, she's working with Morsey Consultants. So, Fida, would you help us with a little brief of what this session is going to be about today?
Yes, Srijana. So basically, today's session will be on parametrics involved in bricks and walls. So, as the title suggests, it deals with structure and materiality of wool through a computational approach. So, that is how I would brief it up.
Awesome. We are super excited to hear all about it. Also, joining us very shortly will be architect Urvi Sheth. So, Urvi ma'am is working in for the past 10 years. She's working to connect and contextualize parametric design, education, and practice. She started her own practice in the name of CraftQuest in 2010, and she's currently a director at CEP Workshops, and was recently elected as a secretary at Cadrea. She has a lot of works published, and both nationally and internationally at platforms like eCAD, eCadrea, and Domus. So with that, I think the platform is all yours, Fida. And thanks again. Thank you both for agreeing to be with us today. Hope you have a great session. Thank you.
Thank you, Srijana. Hi, ma'am.
Hello. How are you?
I'm
Good.
great,
I'm
ma'am. How are
fine.
you?
Thank you. Yeah. It's good to see you after a long time, huh?
Yes, ma'am. It's been really long.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, Srijana was asking about what today's session would be on. So, I was telling her it's basically parametrics involved with bricks and walls.
Yes.
So, ma'am, for those who are not aware of it, I would like to say that ma'am is an expert in the topic, and she has done extensive researches on the same. So, basically, I've seen that in the format of sessions that was happening. So, this question used to come towards the end of the session, but right now I would like to ask you at the beginning, ma'am. So, what is computational design for you?
Well, good you brought it up first because I think there is a very broad range right now for computation. And I think like what Drashti said last time, I would agree with her comment which she made as that every architect has his or her own definition of what is architecture.
Okay.
Likewise, computation is also it's a huge field, I would say, which ranges from design generation through algorithms to emergent technology to energy efficiency, building information model, robotics nowadays being talked a lot. And the most favorite word amongst us as parametrics is also part of it. So it is really important to personalize this at some point, that where specifically you really see yourself. Huh? So yeah, to me, computation really means generating designs through computational tools, integrating structure and aesthetics, form and force, beauty and functionality, something which is obvious yet sometimes very difficult to calculate with our mind. It is a process in which designs are generated with these tools, and physically they are brought to reality using digital and manual construction techniques.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, as you just said, it's a process in which design are generated and brought to physical reality. So, ma'am,
Mm-hmm.
just now you spoke about design process as well as about construction techniques. Ma'am,
Mm-hmm.
also, where do you see choice of material?
See, the beauty of the process is that it sees material as integral part. So it's designing through materiality.
Yes, ma'am.
Designs are generated with inherent knowledge of material, and also the construction techniques, construction sequence, etc. So, as we know, or as those who are really working with it actually demands you to input material parameter at some point in your design, right? And that's how it integrates it.
Huh.
So, with these tools, it becomes really, our intuitive process sometimes of designing is interactive with these tools, where structure, material, behavior, construction, and assembly comes on the same platform.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, since you talked about structure and behavior, material behavior, I believe that's the same that sums up your interest on bricks and walls as well.
Yeah, well, it is. It is.
So, also, ma'am, talking about the same, I pursued my postgraduate thesis on a similar topic under Urvi, ma'am. So, I chose to work under your guidance because I was immensely inspired by the extensive research that you had done. Uh, and ma'am, it is really inspiring. So, ma'am, actually, would you like to share your research outcomes of your work till now with our audience today?
Well, it would be my pleasure, of course. Let's do that. Let's run through that and then come to the research that you've published. So, yeah, I think I would begin with the fact that yes, when you say bricks and bolts, aesthetic, structure, material, all combined together makes architecture of bricks and bolts. It explains everything in one, one
One go.
go.
Yes.
Yeah. So bricks and bolts definitely do not require any definition. Whereas what we are talking about here in terms of bricks is actually customizing bricks. That would mean we are talking about specializing or reshaping or re-innovating or reinventing bricks in some form. And it all started with the question that brick has been so humble, so inexpensive, so much of a known material for centuries, and it has always remained rectilinear, smaller or bigger, changed in proportion in some manner, and stacked for construction as a building block. So the question was that why is brick so rectilinear for ages, and can it be a different geometry? This was the first question from where the research started, or from in my mind, the whole idea of brick started from here. The first experiments were done in Aarhus School of Architecture, Denmark, as part of a summer school. And if you can run few images on your screen, it would be easy for people to relate. Yeah, so when we did first experiments there, these were the research outcomes. There were 5 different kinds of bricks made. The first one you see is star-shaped, which can be stacked stacked vertically. Then one that you don't see behind Aisha is another block which is responding to daylight. So it was a block which directs you towards a specific direction of daylight coming in, and with that the view as well. The third one, the one you see hexagonal block, it had a play of light and shadow, and it could be stacked both ways, vertical and horizontal in a manner. Another one which also goes behind her is a triangular block, which is more like a panel with openings which is going bigger and smaller. So almost like triangular panel. And the last one that you see at the bottom is V-shaped, which we really didn't have clarity on how will we assemble this. Along with this, when we are talking about bricks, there was a simultaneous thought of how are you going to assemble this, right? Or if there were shapes which were non-linear, the curved shapes, the complex geometries, etc., that we work with in today's time. Can we do something about it in brick? And of course, there were answers available. And in that attempt, what we did was, can you put the next image, Aisha? Yeah. So what we came up was this, which looks like volt more or less, but it is actually not. It was more like a free-form surface looking like a volt, and this is 1/10 portion of the overall design. This was something which was the beginning of volt in my mind. Right. So this was form generated in Rhino 5, no structure analysis or no real structure understanding with it. It was just a surface. And since we had robots at our disposal there in Aarhus, it was possible to do 100% customization, and we could kind of think of that kind of approach where we can customize every brick. So in this particular installation, there are 300 different pieces robotically fabricated. Foam was used as material and a hot wire cutter to shape it because it was quick. Now, actually, how we were imagining is this foam hot wire cutting was analogy to shaping the clay to make bricks. Like if we compare it with the production of wire cut bricks, it's the same process where you use wire to cut the bricks or to shape the bricks. Instead, you will use wire to shape it from 5 sides or 6 sides, and you will get these kind of customized bricks. And yeah, it ended like that. After that, this continued back home in CEPT University. All the rest of the attempts and work that I am going to share is all in CEPT. So this was the next stage in, I would call it Bricks and Volts 2, happened in Ahmedabad. What we improved here on brick side is that, okay, earlier we just had changed the shape. Now we were adding minimum one quality to it. So we took a challenge that, okay, brick has to perform as standard brick. Like I said, that all the qualities that it has as a rectilinear brick to make a building, to be watertight, to be cheap, etc. Humble for anyone to lift and put, construct. So one person should be able to handle it, etc. And plus, can we add one more quality? Then only it would be, it would be more meaningful to say, okay, we changed the shape for this reason, or we changed the brick from rectangle to this for this reason. So again, there were 5 different blocks made. The first 2 images are the one which were responding to better acoustics. The one that goes behind Aisha, I think, is an interlocking block. No, so yeah, it's part of interlocking block. Okay, because you would be able to see on your screen. The landscape block, which goes behind her also, which allows you to pot the plants. And all the 4 images are interlocking blocks, which are of light and shade. Let it be, Aisha, it's okay. I think there are these images available on internet anyway. And the last one, once again, a hexagonal block, but this time it is responding to thermal comfort. So that's how there were these 5 blocks. And if you move on to the volt side, So these were few sketches of initial Volt models we did. This time on the Volt side, we had also a systematic approach saying that, okay, let's integrate structural knowledge, and we use the form finding methods accordingly, which integrates the knowledge. So, of course, the first person for all of us to be inspired from is Philip Bloch in this direction, and RhinoVolt as the software. So yeah, so the tool. So we did the same. We used RhinoVolt. We generated these funicular forms, and we chose Timberelt Volt construction as construction technique, which is more commonly known as Catalan Volt as well. And what we made so far in this step was a scale prototype. This is the result. These are the students making scale prototype. And we thought, we achieved a lot. I mean, it was a great step ahead that we learned a lot, in fact. The bigger challenge was yet to come, because after this we had to make it happen on site, or make it real. So if you see one of these middle image, we were trying to build it ourselves. Like, it has me, it has 3 other students, and at some point I was really hands-on, that how can it not happen, let's just do it. And we realized that it was not the regular standard brick for construction. We learned that it was clay tile. And but this experiment ended here, and the next step started, that okay, we had to look for a proper agency who will build it. The challenge also was that who will certify this structural safety, because we were to build it in a public space. So corporation asked us these kind of questions, and then we were like, okay, but we have software, this is generated from software, so it's sure it's safe. And they were like, no, we need some tests done, someone to approve this and take a responsibility guarantee to it. So like, there were these struggles, and we came over it. We looked for a few contractors, didn't work, and finally we joined hands with Hunarshala in Bhuj. Advantage was that okay, it was an institutional collaboration. First thing that helped, because both took it as institutional project and not really very commercial value to it. So we went to Hunarshala, and both our problems were sorted in one go. That one, we did advanced structural calculations that in the format that government needed. And second, that even if we had structural assurance, the construction of Catalan Volt technique in its actual, sort of theoretical form was not so much available in market. So contractors were ready to build the shape, but they would tell me that forget the process. You don't have to look at it how we build. We will build what you want. And I said, no, that's not happening, because it's a wrong message to my students and to the world at large, that I'm claiming something and we are doing something else. So what we agreed with Hunarshala is that we will train the karigars, the craftsmen of Karigarshala that they have. And we ended up training them. We made a one-to-one prototype there. We loaded it with, so this was the prototype, one-to-one. And we loaded this structure with 300 bags of sand, each weighing 20 kilos. And left this structure for a week to measure the deflection and to see the behavior and to see if it falls down or not. And after that, this report was made, and the structure was then built on site. So you shared some images of the site. So this is how it came on site. And this stands now in Sabarmati Riverfront Park in Ahmedabad. So when you go towards airport or you come back from airport to the city, you see this in the park. So yeah, this is how it has come up. It's beautiful. It's small, yet elegant, and it imbibes all the knowledge. So at this point and at this moment, I would really like to thank all the students, co-tutors, teaching assistants, workshop staff, CEPT University, Hunarshala, and corporation, all of them, one and all, who contributed till here. And it was after this the time to move forward. So till then, I believe we were just either doodling or we were learning from the existing examples. And then the time was to say, okay, how can really customized bricks move forward to build certain geometry? And that's where, Aisha, your interest in researching on the possibility of funicular structures using topological assemblies came. And you came with these two separate ideas, and we didn't know really whether this will end into something productive or not. It was just a research question, and then I personally felt that there was a potential, and then we decided to go ahead. That okay, let's see. It's a research. It's open to failure, and we'll see what happens. So I think why don't you share what are topological assemblies and what is the construction system that you came up with initially?
Yes, ma'am. So to start with, when I started off, I was really intrigued by what topological assemblies were. So basically, talking about it, they are just solid blocks which could be arranged like repetitive solid blocks when assembled in a kinematically constrained manner. That is, when it doesn't move, it's constrained. It actually interlocks. And this interlocking happens based on their contact surfaces. So I'll just share some images showing what topological assemblies are. So here we can see they are basically solids arranged or assembled together. So this is what, the idea was to incorporate this into creating funicular structures. And we had a module. Now next was a construction system. So talk about construction system, we thought of using extrude post-tensioning as a construction system. And herein post-tensioning could be done using tension cables. So that was just the vague ideas of topological assembly and how it can be made into a whole construction system. Then it was like, then obviously we had to take it forward.
So what were the goals set after that, Aisha? Like, I mean, we had this already knowledge, we had certain steps solved and learned, and knowledge was built. And so where did you take it up from, and what was the next goal set for you?
So initially starting off, the main aim was to achieve a high speed of construction. Also, since these are topological assemblies, a method in which there is an ease of assembling as well as dismantling the structures on the whole. Then, there was also a second goal to it, which was basically to make it viable in India. So, when we talk about that, it's mainly the cost optimization part. So, how can that be dealt with on working on such a structure in an Indian context? So, when talking about that, to achieve this, the best part would be to limit the customization. So again, while working on limiting customization of the modules, proposal for a design of the module came up, and basically we had designed 4 modules. There was a standard module, an angle spacer, something called as a base module, and a keystone. So basically, all the 3 modules other than the standard module were customized because it catered to the curvature that would come up. So before going on to the curvature part, I would like to show iterations that we worked on while working with the module. So these were different iterations with which finally we finalized on going with one iteration and taking it forward for future testings. Also, talking about testing, initially what had to be done was we had to fix on the optimum size of a module. And once that was fixed, the next step was to analyze whole structures on the whole. So to do this, we used Scan and Solve plugin. It basically does principal compression and tension as well as total displacement for under self weight for structures. So these were the two analyses which basically on what our test was based on. Also, I believe before jumping directly into something, oh, the forms are hidden behind me. Before
No
jumping,
problem.
before so, so before jumping into free formed, like what we just saw in ma'am's presentation, we had to come up with basic, or we had to define how it would work with basic forms, like an arch, a barrel vault, a 4-point vault, or a vault with two
Parallel supports
support.
and not 4-point, but 4-side
Sorry, yes,
supports.
4 side supports.
It's okay.
So basically, we had to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
Then, then the next thing was how would we do the construction logic? What would be the construction logic that goes behind this? So for this again, I'll display a small video which has the construction logic to it.
Aisha, it's not audible here, so maybe a quick run is that there were two types of
Okay, yes.
assembly logic
So
we worked on. Sorry, I'm just speaking up
yeah.
quickly. That one was to assemble it vertically in its place, which will use scaffolding for the first arch, and the next rows will be assembled without scaffolding. Whereas the second one shows that you assemble it on horizontal plane and you don't need any scaffolding for the first row. You assemble everything and then you use a crane or something to lift it up and put it up in the in its place. So these were the two methods. So like this, so far it was optimized for the minimum scaffolding required, minimum customization required, and with the extra dose post tensioning, you know, it allows you to build a more robust structure. So what were the conclusions for your thesis, Aisha? Like, where did you end?
So like summing it up, we came up with a self-supporting dry construction, meaning mortarless construction with symmetrical funicular forms with topological assembly. So initially, the first step was understanding how it would work with symmetrical forms. And then moving on, as ma'am said, like the post tensioning, it actually helps in withstanding the lateral supports, lateral loads, as well as upliftments. Also, as you can see, these are just assembled together. So assembly and dismantling becomes very easy. It can be transported to locations, like it can act as temporary structures. Then the most important part is that cost and time can both be optimized. One, by limiting the customization, and second, by with less use of foam work. So practically, we require very less foam work with which both the cost as well as time of putting it up, etc., can be optimized. And coming to the third, basically, this is just one layer arrangement. And with this arrangement, there is again time, both cost, time, everything is being optimized. Unlike the Catalan system or the rest of the construction systems which happens, which requires like multiple layers for attaining a structural stability for the system, this can just be done using one layer of modules. So again, that also gets optimized. And coming to the last part, talking about customization, the best part is that we can reduce customization to about 45% for symmetrical forms, funicular forms. And when it comes to barrel walls, it could be reduced to about 68%. So that's a huge number when we talk about limiting customization.
Fantastic. I think this was then a remarkable moment to conclude with these things. And Aisha, congratulations for presenting this in Cadria 2020 conference. I think it was hugely appreciated there as well. So yeah, it was good.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, so we've reached here, but now would you explain how do you plan on taking this forward, the
Why do you
research?
hesitate so much to ask how do you plan? Indeed, this is going further, and the question there are a lot of questions yet to be answered within the construction system in terms of details. For example, to tell you one is that okay, we assemble it, but what about leakages? You
Hmm.
know, it's done. It has a lot of merits that it can be done in single construction. It's fast. It's assembly, disassembly, self-supporting. It has a lot of merits, but it still has a long way to go with the details to resolve and to make it real construction. Habitable construction, I would say. And for that, we are working. Secondly, what we are working in is so far we have only prototyped this as 1:10, and we have tested it. But once again, the same thing with the temporal volt, which we did, that we had ended at a moment, and we had to make it live. So I am still looking at the materials with which these modules will be made, though that we have already decided what kind of weight it should have and what kind of strength it will have to withstand and all. Those numbers are known, but material is unknown. So we are trying 3 different materials at a moment to see which one works the best out of 3. And third thing is that we are limiting customization, and it works for symmetrical forms, sure. For, let's say, for barrel vaults, so more number of repetition, it is more efficient. However, does this really stand true for asymmetrical form? Does this really help when we talk about free forms or free other funicular forms which are asymmetrical? Because that would be the key. On one hand, we have all the sophisticated digital fabrication techniques available in the world, and on the other hand, we have our jugglery about cost and facts on reality, on site, on ground here in India, which brings me to make this balance between the two, that okay, can we really make it happen in this manner? This was the biggest question that I want to still answer, that can we really do this for asymmetrical forms?
Yes, ma'am. And that's actually a very interesting way of taking the research forward. Ma'am,
Thank you.
I'm also, having discussed about all of this, I would also like to ask you on how would you sum up your entire experience on working with bricks and walls?
Summing up is too early, I think. We still have a lot to work on before we sum up.
I'm summing up
But
of whatever you've done till now, maybe.
I think what I feel is that bricks and bolts have been there for centuries now. I mean, they are known to all of us in different forms, in different time zones, in different time, in different timelines. As if we check timeline, we see it right from Indus Valley civilization till the moment. Bricks and bolts have been there in some or the other form, and we know it. So what I feel what we are doing is somewhere or the other standing true in the evolution of this of these two.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's very exciting, and it's very satisfying also to see when we see a new type of brick that we make. Indeed, none of it has yet gone to the industry for like a full-time product, but I have a hope, and I am quite positive about it, that it will go very soon.
Ma'am, actually, I've always been inspired by the research that you've been doing, like all this while. And I think this is also a great sum up of your experience working with the walls, bricks till now.
But I think
Ma'am,
I have also something to admit, that I am also quite impressed with all the students who worked enthusiastically on each of these projects, sort of belonging, taking ownership of it, and then also giving it back, that okay, this is what happened, now what to do, and where do we go ahead from. And at some point, to tell the audience truth, that at some point I had really stopped taking thesis students further on research. And the fact is, when Aisha came, I had warned her, are you going to work seriously?
yes, ma'am. And that is
Otherwise,
the
I'm
first
not
thing you
spending
asked me.
time and energy on this, because I have a lot to do. And yeah, I mean, the way you worked, it really broke this notion of few students in between who really were bright, could do, but really didn't happen to the level that we expected. And I was like, okay, now I feel stuck. Now what to do? But you did quite well, and concluded remarkably.
Thank
I'm
you,
quite
ma'am.
happy.
That's a great thing. Like coming from you, it really means a lot to me. Thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So, ma'am, I think it's time for us to sign off. We've been
Well, I think we have
doing
run
it
over
for
the time, I guess.
yeah, 40 minutes.
I think we should stop here. Yeah.
So, ma'am, it was great to connect with you. It is actually really great to have a good conversation with you. Like having experienced that, it's really great. Also, at this point, I would also like to thank the Rehash team for, oh, the current had gone, it just came back. So I would like to thank the Rehash team for putting up such a great platform, for bringing people together. And also on a lighter note, they shared their password with me. So thank you for that too. So also for rest of everybody who watching it, Rehash team is planning on a webinar session on the same topic. So they'll update you guys on the same very soon. So stay tuned. You'll get news on that. And finally, take care, everybody. Time to sign off. Bye,
Thank you,
ma'am.
everyone, for listening to us. And thank you, Rehash. Thank you, Aisha, everyone, for having me. See you soon on the webinar.
Yes,
Bye.
ma'am. See you soon, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye.